Welcome to Around the ECHL, brought to you by TRU by Hilton every Wednesday. And what an honor it is to have on for the second time this year, the commissioner of the ECHL, Ryan Crelin. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you how your bracket is doing. And I have a funny story to go along with that.
I don't think it's doing particularly well, but I think that that may be par for the course this year.
Yeah.
And actually, by the time this airs, I may be doing even worse. So I'm not even going to tell you who my champion is.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I've gone to a lot of college basketball games this year, Ryan. I don't know if it's just boredom, getting out of the house, whatever. I think I've seen about 12 in the last month and a half. And our president, Mike Waddell, and I went to the NCAA tournament in Fort Worth a couple weeks back, and he's a big North Carolina guy, and I thought I was going to have to pull him over the ledge or from jumping over the ledge, because North Carolina blew a 25-point lead, in the second half. But
they saved it in overtime.
Happy ending. They won it in overtime. But everybody does a bracket. And I think that's the one thing, even our guys in the room, I see them, chirping each other back and forth on Twitter about how somebody's bracket's doing. It's amazing how the NCAA tournament consumes everyone, even if you're not a college basketball fan.
Yeah, no question. I think they've put lightning in a bottle, certainly through the month of March, but those first 4 days, because so much action going on because of the David and Goliath and the one and done, it's a great, 72 hours of baskbasketball.
Absolutely.
Maybe 96 hours.
Yeah,
probably 96 hours.
Well, you didn't think you were going to get away without the hard questions here. And I had a few people from around the league asking me, hey, I heard you're talking to Ryan, ask him this. So this one, I've got to get out of here first. As we look towards the playoffs, do you see any health and protocol policies that were in place for the regular season changing for the postseason?
It's funny. We do have another player safety committee call who addresses that coming up here in the next couple of weeks. So we always look at that when that committee meets, and then in conjunction with the PHPA make a determination. I think the big thing for us is looking to the CDC and Health Canada to say, okay, we've entered into that endemic stage versus pandemic stage. I don't think they've made that leap just yet. I've heard some rumblings too about another variant or spike overseas. I mean, I prefer to be more optimistic. I think we're headed in the right direction. The numbers are lowering. So I do think that's possible, but we haven't made that decision as a group just yet.
How about testing for the playoffs? Will players continue to be tested for every game, or do you see that being maybe even a little bit more laxed?
No, yeah, definitely laxed. I mean, under our current model, that only applies to those that are unvaccinated and if they haven't had COVID, or if they're experiencing symptoms. And perhaps we should all knock wood, but that's died down considerably here the past month, 6 weeks. And unless I'm missing something, or again, God forbid, we see a spike, I really think that's quite unlikely.
Do you see a possibility? I know just a lot of the broadcasters that don't travel, or PR guys that don't travel for various reasons. Do you see that policy maybe changing to where we get back to normal life and we kind of go back to the way it was 3 years ago?
Well, I think for next season, absolutely. I think the one piece as we look at this season is that we're so close to the finish line.
Sure.
That we may not alter things. I mean, there's some administrative work that needs to go into there, and again, we're waiting on those health organizations to make that declaration. But my feel is that we're headed in the right direction, and quite honestly, we're close to getting to where we want to be.
Sure.
And again, looking forward to the 22-23 season. For all of us, I'd love to say back to normal. Now, maybe that's a new normal, but a normal and for what it's worth, I just think the taboo of COVID-19 moves into it's just part of everyday life.
Sure. This is the Commissioner Ryan Crelin joining us here on Around the ECHL. Not that I don't enjoy those 6-hour drives to Tulsa by myself, or not to Tulsa, that Wichita is about a 6-hour drive from here. I made one road trip this year on my own. And I'm telling you, Ryan, for a broadcaster and somebody who, is passionate as I am, and love being there in the arena, it was just amazing to actually be in the venue and calling games. And it's amazing how much better of a view and you see the things that happen behind the play. And I told one of our fans who messaged me, and I said, I feel like, I'm a kid in a candy store here. And it was amazing. And I guess you don't really think about that until you can't do it anymore. And so, yeah, the last couple of years have been challenging. We've got through it. And like you, I'm an optimist, and I believe that, better days are ahead for sure.
Yeah. And unfortunately, none of us have a crystal ball, but I feel more confident than ever that we're headed there.
Absolutely. Playoff positioning this season is based on a winning percentage, correct?
Correct. However, for those divisions that each team plays their full 72 game schedule, which will be 2 of the divisions, it really doesn't matter. And we shouldn't say winning percentage is a little bit of a nomenclature. It's really your points percentage.
Sure.
And when every team in the division plays the full 72 games, whether you go by points or point percentage, it's 6-1, half dozen the other. It's the same outcome. So it would only be those divisions in which one of the teams does not complete its full 72 games schedule, which will only be the North and one team in the South, where that will matter.
Okay, so that in our case, then the Mountain Division, everybody's going to play their 72. So it will be based.
Maybe we should both knock wood on that, but yes, that's the plan.
Yeah, that is great. And you know what? And go back to the basketball tournament. I was sitting there thinking about this. The fact that we've gotten through as many games as we had with not one team having to bow out or players or whatever, haven't heard anything about it. I thought that is great news. Like you, I mean, I think that we're moving in that right direction. And, I've heard the same stories that you have about another case in Europe that could affect things. But, I believe, and I'm optimistic that we're going to get through this thing. And, especially now that the Americans have finally moved themselves into the top 4, it's been a tough year, Ryan. I mean, we know our head coach, Steve Martinson, he's a little grumpy when we're out of the top 4. And, I think I've definitely in my Zoom cast I do with him 2 or 3 times a week, I've seen a happier Marty of late. And we have played better. What about the playoffs this year? And obviously we're all excited about it, but is it just me, or does it seem like there's more balance this year? If there for a while, it was from 7 all the way through up to 3. Anybody was within a couple of wins of moving into a playoff spot, which is a good thing, right? I mean, you keep your fans interested, you keep fans coming, and obviously it keeps teams motivated to get out there and play those games.
Yeah, I think if you look at our standings right now, they are very competitive, and one game makes a difference. So that's quite interesting. I mean, there's a couple of outliers in some of the divisions, either at the top or at the bottom, but on the whole, this is quite a competitive race. And to your point, that makes sure that as many markets as possible are engaged in the playoff race. And, we're quite close to getting to the end of the regular season. And I think another big thing about this year's playoffs is, unfortunately, last year we're a year removed where only 14 teams even played the season. And then we played with a reduced playoff field. So only 8 teams got in, playing only 5-game series. This year, we returned back to normal. You're going to have a full 16-team field as well as 7-game series for 4 rounds.
That is greatness. Now, that was my next question. I was going to ask you: is it best of 5 for the first 2, and then assuming the conference finals and championship series back to 7, but they're all back to 7.
Yes, that's been our traditional format, COVID notwithstanding, for a number of years, and for now, that's what we have on the docket. Certainly for this season.
Awesome. Well, expansion is always one of my favorite topics. I think we definitely have to be proud at what the two teams have done this year. Obviously, a new team in Quebec and in Iowa. Obviously, the Heartlanders have been playing some great hockey, the last half of the year. Are you happy with those two cities? And are both those teams, how did they do financially this year?
Yeah, well, I suppose start with Trois Rivières. Very encouraging start. Unfortunately, with the border and COVID protocols in Canada, they had to reduce to no fans for a period of time. We had to move some games around. So that certainly has an impact on their business, but the team has performed well on the ice. And they're now able to welcome fans back, and certainly the excitement builds as they make that playoff push. In Iowa, unfortunately, they got a slower start on the ice, as you denoted, have been playing much better recently. When it comes to the end here, I don't know if they'll make it into the playoffs, but I think that's invigorated some of their fans. Obviously, they're in a college city, and Iowa football and basketball have died down. So I think that bodes well for them here in the final stretch. But what they've both been able to do with new buildings, with the surrounding area, pretty cool, and bodes well for the future of the ECHL.
This is the Commissioner Ryan Crelin joining us here on Around the ECHL, brought to you by TRU by Hilton. Got this question emailed to me last week, and I thought I would save it for you. One of the big concerns has always been hits to the head. Do you feel like as a league we've cracked down on that enough that there are less injuries in cases involving head injuries?
Yeah, I mean, certainly if you look over the period of the past 4 or 5 years, absolutely. And we continue to make that a point of focus, both in player education and then discipline as well. I think the one issue is that this is a competitive physical sport. And if you read the rules as well, just because you touched somebody's head or a concussion resulted from it doesn't necessarily mean that it's an illegal act. Unfortunately,
Right.
the game moves so fast that there could be head contact that is deemed legal. So, at this point, we got to continue to just apply the rules as they read, and continue to reinforce the players to have respect for each other and do everything they can to avoid head contact.
That's good news, and obviously that's the one thing you want to hear. I think personally, just watching in games, whether I'm at home or actually in the building calling a game, it seems like things are not as bad. I remember, God, years ago, and it seemed like that was a big topic, and it started in the NHL, but it just seems to me like players are, I don't want to say being more respectful, because they're still out there playing a man's game, but it seems like they're thinking about it a little bit more. And, maybe before you have a chance to run a guy through the boards or put him in an awkward position, they're thinking about somebody's livelihood and taking away their ability to play the game if you, so choose to go in there and hit them head first.
Yeah, and again, that takes some time. It's reinforcing the fact, making sure everyone knows what's permitted and what's not, educating, applying the discipline when it's warranted. But again, because it's such a fast physical game, I don't know if you'll ever completely take it out.
Well, I started with a hard question. I'm going to finish with a softie here for you. I noticed at the league meetings last year how much weight you had lost, and how great you looked, and I remember how proud you were. Well, thanks for asking. How is the diet and how is the eating plan going?
Yeah, we're going in the wrong direction, Tommy. Unfortunately, I've hit the road more and it becomes more difficult. But I think I told you once before, it's about eating correctly.
Yes.
And so I think I just have that mindset, and it's helped me not put it back on as quickly. Not to say that I haven't put some of it back on, but not as quickly. And as things start to get a little warmer here in the Northeast, hope to get a little bit more active and maybe shed back down a few pounds.
Well, you know what the good news is, we still have several months until we see each other in Vegas for the league meetings, assuming we are going back to Vegas this year.
We are.
All right. So you got plenty of time to work out and just wow people again when they see
Amen.
you at the gala that we do the night before the meeting started. That, by the way, and let me tell you something, that is one of my favorite parts of the year. I really enjoy it, and you know, for a few different reasons. One, because that's really the only time I get to see a lot of people that, you know, I'm friends with around the league. And because every time we see each other, whether you're traveling or they come to your building, you're busy. You know, it's a game night. You don't have time to sit down and chat. And, you know, not to mention the fact, you know, for those of us who are also part of the sponsorship world, you pick up a lot of, you know, key tips from people around the league. So, you know, good job on that. It is one of my favorite times of the year, not just because we go to Vegas, but because really it is, it's a good time. And I think, and hopefully everybody gets something out of it.
Yeah, no question. I mean, you know, the primary intention is that we can share ideas and learn from each other to bring it back to our markets. But it's the one time a year where we're all together face to face to share in what we're able to accomplish at the ECHL. I mean, this is not a one-man effort. This takes hundreds of, and if not, you know, thousands of people to pull off. So to be able to get everyone together, especially too, being that I feel like the past 2 years we've only seen each other on Zoom.
Yeah.
You know, the ability to have that interaction, there's just something to be said for that. Over the course of a couple of days is so special.
Ryan, thanks for always being so generous with your time and coming on to chat with us on whatever the topic might be. And I look forward to seeing you here in Allen soon.
Yeah, be down in a couple of weeks. So look forward to seeing you.
All right. The great commissioner of the ECHL, Ryan Crelin, Around the ECHL, brought to you by TRU by Hilton.